Computer. Hi there. How are
Hi,
you?
good. How are you?
Good. It's so nice to see you. I was trying to remember the other day. Well, I should introduce you, but we'll say this really fast. Um, how long it's been since you were at my shop? Was it like 2 years ago?
Or longer. It's
Yeah.
been, yeah, I think longer, 3. Yeah.
Well, I've only owned the shop for 3.5. Oh, I guess it's almost 4 years, 4 years in April. So yeah, you're probably right. It probably is 3 years ago. Anyway, let me introduce myself and the podcast and you and all that good stuff. So I'm Melissa McLeod and I'm here at the Wool and the Floss in Grosse Pointe, Michigan, very cloudy, dreary Michigan right now. And with my partner, Megan Holmes from the Needlepoint Clubhouse in St. Louis. We are the Pointing It Out team and we like to bring you fun information and designers and just some hopefully needly entertainment. And today we have one of my favorite young people, Abby Timmis, who has some Michigan roots. And she's Abby Timmis of Abigail Cecile, and who wears many hats. And we'll get into all that. But where are you right now, my dear?
I am in Philadelphia,
And
which isn't quite as gray as
is
Michigan.
that a temporary stint or a
Yeah,
permanent?
it was one of those things. I have family out here, and COVID happened, and I was kind of a little rootless and decided Philly would be a fun place to try out. So,
Nice.
yeah.
Because you are originally from the Grand Rapids area, is that right?
Yes, yes, kind of middle of the state. Yeah, yeah.
Grand Rapids, Michigan, for those who don't know what we're talking about. I get so knee deep in what I'm doing, sometimes I forget to tell the details. So, yeah. So, and you've got family in the Detroit area, right?
Yes, yes, lots of extended family. That's kind of where I was from originally. So I'm certainly visiting your shop was like very familiar and
Oh,
yeah,
that
yeah.
was fun. Yeah, so we were just figuring that out. Obviously, that it was about 3 years ago now. My, how time flies. And I think I met you maybe in I let me rephrase it. I think I accosted you in the elevator in Dallas, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, you're Abigail Cecile, and you live in my state, and you need to come to my shop." And you're like, "Okay, crazy lady." But you were very gracious and we worked it all out. And yeah, you came and taught a class, which I think everyone loved. I had a few people, I think, try to do it afterwards and weren't quite as successful. So,
Yeah, it was definitely a different technique for I think needle pointers. I taught a wool felting, sort of floral wool felting class with needlepoint. Yeah, there it is. That's
pretty,
so fun. I
I
never saw it
absolutely,
finished.
oh, you haven't? Oh my gosh, I absolutely love it. I picked up my obviously fabric and fringe and all that stuff myself, but it is so awesome. I absolutely love it. But
It's
yeah, so this what, I'm gonna turn it sideways. So that's wool felting or wet felting, or are they the same thing?
Yeah, wool wet felting. Yeah, there's a couple different types of wool felting. You can do it with a needle, but this one is, yeah, wet. You use roving, and it's just this crazy cool fiber art process where you're taking this sort of essentially wool that is pre-spun into yarn, and you're agitating it with water and soap. It's super messy, and you're essentially sculpting it. But it's a great for anybody who wants to branch out. It's a very fun thing to do.
It was really fun to do. I have to admit, I think all of us were I think we had 6 or 8 of us, and we were all very new to the process, and it required a lot of your hand holding, and you were super patient and sweet with all of us. So, and we all turned out with very successful results. I know. I shouldn't say that. I know at least 4 of us finished. I hope the rest did, because sometimes we take classes just to learn something, and then we don't always finish the project. But
Sure, sure.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But we're totally digressing because I'm just so excited about that. So, tell us a little bit more about your background, where you talked a little bit about where you grew up, other professional careers you've had, what your, family is of late, all that kind of good stuff.
Yeah. Oh gosh, how far do you want me to back up?
You're the one telling the story, so it's all up
Yeah.
to you.
Okay. So I am from Michigan, kind of middle of the state, grew up on like a little hobby farm. So in some ways, I would say my profession really started when I was 10 to like my being a teenager. because I was homeschooled and my parents are just awesome. And I was like, Mom, I think I want to be an artist. And she's like, okay, let's do all the art stuff in high school. So I really ended up from kind of beginning in drawing, getting very quickly into the fiber arts. And I kind of just tried everything, just threw a lot of mud on the wall. So I did like weaving, fiber dyeing, spinning. We had a spinning wheel at home,
My gosh.
tatting, quilting, kind of anything could really get my hands on.
And are those things
Um,
that your mom all knew, or was this like, she's like, I'm a homeschooler, I'm going to dive into this and figure it out and help my kid? Or how did that?
she was more like the principal, and she found everybody for us to go learn from.
Gotcha.
So I have a lot of siblings, and we were all homeschooled. So she kind of was the one that was orchestrating everything. And whether it was an actual high school class, like I took, a lot of like Adobe Creative Suites, web design, stuff like that, to sort of support all the fiber arts. I knew I'd have to take photographs of my stuff one day. And so those were high school classes, but a lot of that fiber through like local or kind of going and finding people who were experts in that area. So it really just varied. But yeah, it was
Well,
fun.
I have to tell you right now that like I only have 3 kids, and I think, did you tell me before you have 5 siblings,
I
maybe?
do. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm impressed that I remember that, by the way. Um, Maybe it's because I was like, wow. My daughter at one point begged, like I can't say beg enough times, for me to homeschool her. And I'm like, no way. No way. Like I think that is the hardest
Yeah.
job to even begin to get my head around. So the fact that your mom did that for all 6 of you,
Yeah, she did. Yeah, she's pretty amazing.
that makes her way amazing in my book. So kudos to her.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's kind of where my sort of fiber art journey started. And I got to the end of high school and was like, well, none of the fiber arts I had done really stuck out. Some I wasn't a fan of, some I liked, but nothing kind of shone, if that makes sense. I was like, well, I just really want to make beautiful things for the rest of my life. How I'm going to make money doing that, I have no idea, but that's what I wanted to do. And my parents were like, well, there is this school called the Royal School of Needlework in England. Do you want to go there for a semester? And I was like, yeah, I do.
Like
So
every needle pointer's dream right there.
it is, yeah. So I got shipped off to England for 3 months, and yeah, spent those 3 months in Hampton Court Palace, which is beautiful, just this ideal setting,
Oh,
but learning, traditional sort of historic hand embroidery techniques. And I worked on their certificate program. I didn't actually finish it in the 3 months, but did their Jacobean crewel work technique, their canvas work, which was my first introduction to needlepoint, and their silk shading. And that's really where embroidery started to kind of take off.
amazing.
Yeah, yeah.
That's so cool. So then where did things go from there?
So then I came home and was like, okay, I have all this technical skill, but really not the fine art or the design ability to to design the embroideries that I could then create.
Right.
So I started studying illustration. That took a couple years, and I just got to the point where I was like, I think I just really missed embroidery. I was drawing a ton, obviously, for my classes. It's like, I think I have what I want. And so I just finished up with one last class and launched my Etsy business at that
So,
point.
and were those classes at a Michigan college?
That was through Academy of Art University, which is out of San Francisco. But they have a large online program, so I just did it online. Yeah, which was
Nice,
nice.
nice.
Yeah,
So your Etsy business started in what year?
2015 maybe.
That's
Uh,
a lot, and
it all gets kind of jumbled up, but yeah.
yeah, you've come a long way in 6 years. It's amazing.
Yeah, and it wasn't that much longer that I got into needlepoint. So while I was at the Royal School of Needlework, I had a fellow student who painted a needlepoint canvas, and that's kind of where the idea was introduced to me. Interestingly enough, I have like family members who needlepoint, but because I didn't have a local needlepoint shop growing up, it wasn't until much later that I kind of was introduced to that. So I was like, oh, a hand painted canvas, that's really cool. Like that sounds like it would be a very fun thing to do. And I thought, well, I could maybe add that to my Etsy shop as like just another sort of product. And so I painted a needlepoint canvas and had no idea what I was doing. And then a week later, I met my next door neighbor at a block party, and she had co-owned a needlepoint store. And we connected over the Royal School. And I said, oh, well, I just painted this needlepoint canvas. Can I show you? And she's like, oh, you could design these if you wanted to. And I'll show you how to actually do it right. So
Is that
she went on
Val?
to
Is
just,
that whatever
what's that?
her name, Val?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Peacock Alley Needlepoint was my local store at that point. Yeah. So she just became a wonderful friend and mentor, and really the person who helped me to develop a collection and a body of work, show me how to do it correctly, and then put me in touch with people in the industry. And then
Ask, what were you doing that was incorrect?
I wasn't
Oops.
painting. So I just took a paintbrush and painted the canvas kind of regardless of the intersections of the canvas.
So
Yeah.
so for those people listening that might not be familiar with these terms, most needlepoint canvases in most needlepoint shops are stitch painted, meaning that every intersection is a distinct colorway and there's no guesswork involved, right?
Yeah.
And you were probably doing it more on the painterly way, that's the other term, which looks beautiful, but is much more challenging to stitch.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So that was my kind of introduction into needlepoint, and really my introduction into like American needlepoint, even stitching it, because my original piece through the Royal School, just the way you approach it sort of stylistically is very different. We didn't use a hand painted needlepoint canvas, and it's very heavy in terms of the way you stitch it, and a little bit more artistic's not quite the right word. It's artistic in a different way than American needlepoint. So Vale really showed me how to needlepoint as like an American, essentially, really utilizing the paint on the canvas, and expanding beyond kind of the cotton and wool that we used at the Royal School. So yeah.
Well, and that's what I think makes needlepoint so interesting now for those that, there's so many new needlepointers since March of 2020.
I know.
But there's also a lot of returning needlepointers, and they're all like, they come into my shop with their eyes like wide open because they're like, it just used to be pattern iron and pearl cotton and beautiful choices. Like, and so even if their choice is to just be a traditional basket weave continental tent style stitcher, it's just so much more interesting when you have all these different beautiful textures and
Yes.
makeups to work with. So yeah.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Good. And then your Etsy shop initially was focusing on embroidery, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And I think we missed a chapter. I'm gonna back you up to a chapter. I remember, because didn't you used to work at a quilt shop too?
I did, yes, through college. Yeah, I worked at a quilt shop, but I love quilting.
Well, and I think that to me, I see a lot of your color choices and color work and color I don't know, style maybe coming from that experience, from being surrounded by all those gorgeous fabrics.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's definitely something that's a huge industry and something that has always inspired me. And in a lot of ways, like that was the industry that, as a teenager and through high school, I was kind of aiming for, I suppose. But yeah, I just fell into needlepoint really. But yeah, the designers, I mean, it's a whole nother world that you can get into, and just the fabrics that come out of that are beautiful, and certainly always an inspiration. Yeah.
Yeah. So your Etsy shop was originally embroidery, and then you kind of tiptoed into the needlepoint side. And then it wasn't too long before you ended up wholesaling your needlepoint designs. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was repped by Fleur de Paris for a couple years. and then ended up going out on my own. And yeah, getting into kind of the whole production side of things. And yeah, so I mean, Abigail Cecile has definitely gone through a lot of variations throughout the years, but
Okay.
um, yeah, yeah,
Well,
I would say my I love like where I've landed now. Maybe that's getting ahead of myself, but kind of being in this position, and of course with the industry expanding, it's really fun.
oh, it is really fun. It's a little crazy. I think we're all trying to like have a little growing pains adjusting to like the new needlepoint normal, which maybe
Mhm.
won't be normal for very long. Who knows, you know? Right now, I think we're all learning to be very flexible.
Yes. Yeah, it's exciting.
Um, okay, so now you have your Etsy shop that has embroidery patterns, and I know sometimes you have. I started this the other day. It's not quite done. I changed the colors.
Oh, oh, it looks so good.
So I don't know if you saw, I talked about Megan earlier. On her Instagram page, she had a little traditionally colored joy that they'd finished for someone in like a beautiful tartan. Did you
Oh my
see it?
goodness. I didn't see it. I will so go and look.
So I loved your colors the way you had them. So I don't have the piece of paper here. So Abigail, of course, did this in non-traditional Christmas colors because everything she does has a little tweak of creativity. So I think it's like pinks and like kind of pea greens and celery greens. And it's gorgeous. And I was all about stitching that until I saw Megan's piece that they had finished for a customer. And it's just this little like tartan plaid pillow with a ruffle and some gold cording, and it's amazing. So I had to copy hers. So that's why my colors are changed. So you'll have to go peek at that because it's awesome. So this is a counted piece that you did complimentary for your newsletter subscribers, right?
That's correct. Yeah.
So, which is super generous of you because it couldn't be cuter. And I think a lot of people have been intimidated to do counted designs. So why don't you tell us a little bit about like the other counted pieces that are available in your Etsy shop? And then for people who haven't done counted pieces before, why they shouldn't be scared? Because I think a lot of people are scared
Yeah.
if they've never done counted canvases.
Yeah. So I would say, when I first did these counted patterns, I thought, well, cross stitch is so huge. Um, Everybody follows a chart. It's seems really simple. I've never cross stitched, but it seemed really straightforward. So I was like, oh, needle pointers will have no problem with that. And I was actually really surprised to find that people are intimidated because they should not be. It's just really straightforward. So really, you're just looking at this grid, and the grid relates to the canvas and to the intersections of the canvas. And I would say where it can get a little bit more complicated is if you're trying to use decorative stitches.
Right.
But if you're just doing a 10 stitch, it's just like following a cross stitch chart if you've ever cross stitched. And it's definitely different than needlepoint, sort of traditional hand painted canvas needlepoint, in that you're not covering an area, a painted area with your thread, but there's something sort of addictive about it because like seeing that pattern emerge on your canvas is it's really exciting.
Well, I feel
So
like you feel like you're creating something from nothing,
totally.
like,
Yeah, yeah, it's really fun. Like, and even I thought, oh, this is when I went in designing these, I thought, well, this is just going to be a good way to make needlepoint a little bit more accessible if people don't want to buy a hand painted needlepoint canvas. And it turned into just this completely different thing where I thought, needlepoint is fun in different areas, but I enjoy this process of using a chart just as much as I do stitching over a painted canvas. So
well, one of
yeah,
the things
don't be
that I will
intimidated.
tell you, is your directions were really good, but I didn't actually get out a ruler. So when I started mine, I think you were supposed to start 2.5 inches from the corner. And I thought that that stitch was 2.5 inches from each corner because I was just guessing because I was too lazy to get up off my couch. So that's why mine is a little lopsided, but it doesn't really matter because you always plan for selvage, right? So if you don't exactly do it right, it's going to turn out okay. Um, and the other thing that I guess I'm going to point out as a shop owner is people don't believe me, and we'll see if you agree with me. But a lot of times with counted pieces, I think you're better off working on a beige canvas rather than a white canvas
Oh,
because the halo effect isn't as dramatic. Like
Oh,
if a
that's
little of this
interesting.
beige shows through, it's going to be less obvious than if white shows through.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah,
You
yeah.
sell both beige and white for that reason, but everyone wants white. And when I start to run out of white, um, people are like, oh no, I don't want beige. I'm like, really? Beige is better.
Oh, that's so funny. See, to me, beige is actually cooler. I use white just because it's practical,
Well,
but
it's easier to come
beige,
by.
I certainly enjoy kind of the aesthetic of it. I'm like, that's more old world, more English, kind of what I did at the Royal School. And yeah, I love beige.
Yeah, yeah. So this has been really fun. And you have a bunch of other charts available in your Etsy
Yes.
shop?
So on my website, Abigail Cecile, I do have a lot of monograms, which were just really a blast to create and to see people stitching up. So I wanted to do something that would be a fun, just kind of small project for somebody personally, but also a great project that they could do for girlfriends or people having babies or getting married or they're all personalized. I have one here. um, so because the monograms in the center of each one, they're all personalized, and because of the charted nature of it, it's a little bit more maybe economical than a hand painted. Not that I mean, um, but that was kind of thought behind those charts, and it's been really fun to see everybody stitching them and enjoying them for sure.
Sure.
Yeah,
Well,
so I think
and
I have 5 different designs, yeah, or patterns with 3 different designs in each. Yeah.
well, and we all, I mean, we all, I shouldn't qualify that. Most of the people that shop in my shop love hand painted canvases because that's why they're shopping at my shop because that's what I have. But I think it's so important. I think the counted pieces to me are important because it works a different side of your brain.
Yeah.
And I'm convinced, rightly or wrongly, that like it's like doing crossword when they say that older people should keep doing crossword puzzles. Like this is like our version of the crossword puzzle. Like it's causing you to really have to think and look and compare. And so I think that's important. I think it's less expensive for people who can't afford a painted canvas, or if you need to make like a teacher gift and
Yes.
like you don't want to spend the kind of money you need to spend for that. Like you could get your chart, some plain canvas at a self-finishing object out
Oh,
of my little self-finishing corner and
yeah.
spend like $40 on a gift rather than, 100 plus. So,
Right, right, exactly.
and yeah, so I think that's really great. Really, really great. Um, so so you mentioned your website. So tell us the difference about from your website to your Etsy shop to what's available at local needlepoint shops.
Yeah, so honestly, my Etsy shop is still there because I still have old embroidery patterns and kits left, just still in stock. So my Etsy shop is just selling off stuff that I've had for a long time at this point. So I don't update that. But my website is where you can find what's kind of currently available and is really focused on needlepoint exclusively. Um, I have a contract through PLD Design, so they rep me. And Pat is just absolutely wonderful. And she works with all the shops to bring my hand painted line to people. Yeah. So
And
that,
I have dinner with her every year at Dallas. Like there's a group of 8 of us, and she's part of our like Saturday night dinner crew. And so been talking to her more lately. I mean, I always have been talking to her, but my customers love your design, so I've been talking to her a lot more.
oh,
I was telling you earlier, I was trying to set up in front of your canvases, but I sell them as soon as they walk in the door. So I don't have that many here, but I do have one of my favorites. And this is an older design of yours, but I stitched your Hallows Eve.
oh yeah.
And
Oh,
I love stitching this piece. And I don't know if you can see.
I
Oh,
can.
but to me, this is a great stash buster. I just did an Alicia's lace in the background, but then all those cute little buildings. And that's where I think your pieces are just so great because not everyone's going to do this like pop of color in the bottom of a Halloween piece like you do. So I just love it.
Thank
So
you.
that was a really fun thing for me to stitch. And I always have that piece in stock because everyone sees it and like, oh, so cute. So
Ah,
yeah.
cool.
Um, so how many, tell us a little bit about your current wholesale needlepoint line. Like how many pieces are in your line, best sellers, worst sellers. No, we don't want to say worst sellers, less loved pieces, because sometimes the less loved pieces get a lot of love after these podcasts.
Okay. Oh gosh. So honestly, I have no idea how many I have in my line now. I've been pretty aggressive about actually taking away my less loved pieces that maybe are a little bit older and haven't gotten a lot of attention, and I just kind of discontinue them. So I would say I'm definitely past like the 100 mark, maybe 120 mark in terms of designing, but quite a few of those have been discontinued. So honestly, I don't know how many are in my line now, but yeah, my most popular has been this one across the years. This was one of my earlier designs.
Oh, so it's like the Christmas version of what I just showed.
Christmas version of the Halloween. Yeah,
I think I have that on my wall too. I usually always have that piece in too.
yeah, that's just I people really loved that one. And you're right, it's funny. Sometimes you design something and you think, oh, this is gonna be so popular, people are gonna love it. And they don't. And then you design something, you're like, and people love it. And that's what happened with my rooftop series. I actually did the Paris piece in school as like an illustration exercise. And I thought, oh, this would make a really good needlepoint, colors, but I was like, this would be a good needlepoint piece. So I designed it and people loved it. And so then I had to make a bunch more. So that the rooftops of Paris has also been a really popular one throughout the years. But
Well, and I think, didn't you do an exclusive with Megan at the
I
Needlepoint
did.
St. Louis?
Yeah.
And she's so cute because she always, she beats herself up a little bit because I think she feels like she should be like more she stitcher than she is, for lack of a better word. And so that's one of the first classes she designed or picked her stitches and taught the class. So she was
Oh,
very proud of it. And
oh,
she,
that's awesome.
yeah,
That's really fun. Yeah, that was a fun one. That was
good.
a fun design.
Yeah. Now I did make a note about this, and I just want to make sure we don't forget this, because one of the things that I think is also very unusual on your larger pieces is you paint on 16 mesh canvas, and that kind of throws people. They're like, "Whoa, I don't know what to do with this." Everyone either stitches or creates on 18 mesh or 13 or 14, depending. But then you fall into the 16 mark, which is a little
Yeah, you know,
unusual.
I've stopped recently, I would say in the last 2 years. But initially, when I first started designing, I did a lot of 16. And I think I did that really because I thought 13 count was kind of big and hard to get the detail I wanted. And 18 count is so little. So if you have a big piece on 18, it's just, to me, I maybe it's my age, I don't know, but I find it a little tedious to stitch a large piece on 18 count. So 16 was kind of this nice in between spot, and all of my rooftop series are painted on that. All of my larger kind of older designs. My newest collections, my butterfly collection that just came out, that's all on 13. But
I noticed.
yeah, 16 is a great, yeah, it is now. Yeah. It's like, okay, I'm gonna join everybody else and do
You
13.
can't
But
fight City Hall anymore.
yeah, yeah. And it's a little bit harder because threads are, I think, created for either 18 or 13. So when you're working with 16, it's just there's a little bit more of an adjustment that needs to happen
Yeah.
in terms of how many strands you use typically and stuff like that. So
Right, right. So it's a little more of a challenge. And I've had to help stitchers over that hump. I'm like,
yeah,
well, pepper pot's a little lofter than vineyard silk. So just use pepper pot on this because it's 16. It's only a little bit bigger than 18, but
yeah, yes, yeah, exactly.
so yeah. So I think when we did this piece, I believe is on 16. And I remember being a little like mind blown by that at the time. So.
Yeah,
But we were using a lot of 6-ply silk, I think, from Planet Earth.
yeah, yeah, I think so. It's been a while,
Yeah.
honestly. Yeah.
Okay, what else have we talked about? Um, so you taught for me at one point. Are you doing other teaching? Do you have, I mean, this is a weird time frame, so maybe you're not teaching right now, but do you have thoughts along those lines?
Yeah, so I've been teaching a lot over Zoom, which has been a good way to reach people, despite COVID.
Right.
But I love teaching. It's certainly something that, is one of my goals with Abigail Cecile is to, not just create designs that are beautiful and, are a joy to stitch, but certainly to get stitchers to the point where they're really comfortable with the materials and with what they're doing so they enjoy the process. So that's certainly something I love to do. Yeah.
So I'm going to back up for 1 second because I forgot to bring this to people's attention. You have some fabulous, fabulous tutorials on YouTube.
Oh, thank you.
So you also, so now we've done wholesale line, Etsy shop, your own website for your counted pieces, and you have this YouTube channel. So, and the YouTube is all complimentary, obviously.
Yeah.
And you have I refer people to your video on painting canvases all the time. When they ask me, I say, I know nothing, go watch this video, like that will help you. And also a lot of people are really appreciating your finishing
Yeah.
tutorial.
Yeah.
Finishing's expensive and sometimes it's not in your budget and sometimes people are like, I just want to figure out how, and then sometimes they figure out how and they say, now I understand why it's so expensive, because it is not easy.
Yeah.
So you've made it a lot easier and more accessible for people to be able to give that a go. So that's,
Yeah. Yeah. That's been really fun. So I've also been teaching finishing.
uh-oh.
It's fun to see. Some
Oh,
people just really they love the process, and some people are like, it's okay, but they go and they do it. And I personally found that the more I do it, the more fun it becomes. And
right.
I certainly love the kind of customizable aspect of it. And then yeah, some students are like, okay, I get it. Everything's going to the finisher.
Right.
Like
Well,
I
and
understand
you
the cost.
appreciate more the finishing process once you know what's gone into it.
Yes,
Um,
absolutely.
and I always say to people, if you can afford to have a professional finish for you, that's great. But even learning how will make you better understand, like if it's a shaped ornament, like why you can't have those little itty bitty divots in them. And so if you understand the process, you're going to be a better stitcher, even if you choose to never finish yourself again.
No doubt. Yeah. And even just in terms of choosing, if you want to choose your own background fabric or little
Right.
charms to add to it and you're cording, all those things, if you know how to finish and kind of what that process is like, you can make a more educated sort of guess there as to what it's going to look like in the end and what's the best materials to use, etc.
Right. So if you're teaching on Zoom, how do people find you for that?
Yeah. Through my website,
Okay.
abigailspiel.com. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, good. I think it's important for people to know that. And anything new and well, anything we haven't covered and anything new and exciting coming up the pike that you want to share with us?
Oh, so many things. Boy, where to start? I am. You can probably see behind me. I've had a nativity series come out with the
Yeah,
Needleworks, which has
yeah,
just been really fun to see everybody stitching it on Instagram. It's just such a joy.
that's great.
But that is a new colorway, and that will be coming out in a very long time. Um, but that's kind of what I'm currently working on, and I can show. I've got Mary here. So it's
Oh,
just a kind of a softer, more a gentle, but definitely less traditional colorway. I think my first colorway is still my favorite, but I love the girly stuff. So that's happening. Definitely working on developing more classes. Again, I want to. It's just everybody who has been joining the industry and start picking up a needlepoint, joining the industry, whatever whatever side you're on. Just bringing more, knowledge, and especially with COVID and people stuck at home,
right.
just more, resources to people. So I'm developing classes in terms of stitching, the stitching side, and just trying to find what people are interested in. Um, I am hoping to launch a club soon where we explore background stitches.
Oh, fun.
And it's going to be these little wildflowers. I have them designed on my iPad, not painted, otherwise I'd show you. But yeah, just these cute little wildflowers that will then, go and stitch different stitches in the background. So just starting to expand people's comfort in terms of what stitches they use.
Love
So
it.
I'm hoping to launch that soon, but
Oh,
lots of little products and classes like that in the works for sure.
good. Well, we used to teach between knitting and needlepoint 8 classes a week here.
Oh my goodness.
And, now we're not doing any. I'm not, I think other shops maybe have more space or are less COVID neurotic than I am. I don't know. I think, my average customer is of an age that I'm not comfortable having them here and putting themselves at risk and encouraging them to sit inside in an enclosed space for 2 hours within 6 feet of other people. It just doesn't make sense. So
Right.
I've chosen not to do it. So I love, love, love that there's so many more virtual opportunities because I feel badly about that. And as a shop owner, like I used to teach a lot of my classes, but I think it's really hard to have a quality Zoom class, and that takes practice, experience, skill that the average shop owner doesn't have time to devote to that. So I love that you are filling in that
Yeah.
gap for my customers. It's not people that found you of their own, but I'm thrilled to have a place to refer them because I feel
Oh,
badly.
good. Well, thank you. Thank you. And certainly, it's I know you can't replace walking into a shop, of course, but whatever yeah, obviously we can do, in this crazy in between time is great.
Right. Well, yay. Well, thank you so much for spending time with me. Is there anything else you want to cover that we haven't talked about? Have I missed anything? Oh, did you freeze up?
Not that I know of, not that comes to mind. Yeah.
Good. Well, thank you. Thank you so much. It's been great spending time with you. I hope lots of people have learned a lot about you. I know I have. And I hope to have you teaching in my shop maybe, in a year
After
or
all
so.
this is over, yes, absolutely.
Okay, my dear. Well, good to spend time with you. Thank you so
You too.
much.
It's been a
And
joy.
for
Thank
anyone
you.
who is just joining us for the first time, please hit subscribe so that other Stitchers can find us, and go to Abigail Cecile's YouTube channel and hit subscribe too, because that helps other people find her videos too. So thank you. Okay, we'll
Yeah.
see you soon.